Awesome. Jake Stuart here with the National Sports Media Association. Today I'm joined by Steve Holman, five-time Georgia Sportscaster of the Year. Steve, thank you so much for your time today.
Jake, it's a pleasure to be on with you.
So Steve, just to kind of for those in the audience that don't know kind of your background, you're the Atlanta Hawks play-by-play for 92.9 The Game, 36 seasons, and you've never missed a game. I mean, how do you do it for so long?
Well, it's just a matter of showing up for work every day, and it's something that I love to do, and I enjoy it every game like it's the first one. And even now in season 37, it's just as much fun as it was the first year I ever did it.
I know this takes you way back when, but what brought you into the industry? I know it was a long time ago.
I was about 8 years old, really, and I heard the famous Johnny Most, where I grew up in Massachusetts, on the radio. He was doing the Celtics games back then, and I found him to be pretty interesting to listen to. And I guess somewhere along the line, I decided that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be. I wasn't so sure so much of a play-by-play basketball announcer, but I knew I wanted to get into the radio business somehow, some way. And I listened to the local radio station a lot as a kid, and I guess it's kind of strange, really, but since I was 8 years old, it's all I ever wanted to do.
And this obviously isn't your first award. You've won it now 5 times. I want to say the last time was 2019. What does this award specifically mean to you? Obviously, COVID has been a thing the past couple of years. Has that change your work a little bit as well?
Well, yeah, we had to the whole COVID season. We had to do every game from State Farm Arena instead of being on the road, which was a little tough. They had a nice setup for us in the control room at the arena, though. We had the big screen TVs. We had the sound effects piped in, the basket noises and the squeaking of the shoes and all of that. The effects is what they call it, and it worked out okay, but nothing like being at the games, for sure. And we're back out on the road now. We're back traveling 100%. So that's a good thing. But it was challenging during the COVID, and to win this award is always very special for me, because it's voted on by people that are in the business, your peers in your state. So
Right.
that makes it very special.
Now, Steve, I know you've a lot of people know you from your voice of the Hawks. You've done this for so long, but also you did do some time with the Olympics as well back in '96. Is there a game or a specific moment that stands out most to you? Something really big that you got to be a part of?
Well, the Olympics were very special, and it's hard to believe it's almost 26 years ago now that all took place. But I got to do quite a few of the basketball games for the men's team, and I got to call the women's gold medal game at the Georgia Dome. So that was pretty special too. And I also got to do boxing, which is something I had never done. I called some boxing matches, and the guy that did the boxing got called away suddenly. I had to go home. So they told me to go over and do the boxing at Georgia Tech, is where the venue was. I said, well, I've never done boxing. And they said, don't worry about it. It's just basketball with gloves on. So, so I did it. I went and did it.
So now growing up, did you have, a sportscaster, a couple sportscasters that you looked up to? Who was kind of your inspiration?
Well, Johnny Most was one for sure. Did the Celtics games. He was kind of my mentor, and Kurt Gowdy, who was huge back in the day. I mean, he did the first Super Bowl on television. He also was the Red Sox announcer for a long time. That's where I got to hear him first. And then he went on. Of course, every year he would do not only the Super Bowl, but he would do the World Series on television. He would do the NCAA basketball championships on television. He did a show called American Sportsman. It was like a hunting and fishing show. He was also a big part of Wide World of Sports. And he ended up buying the radio station in my hometown, Lawrence, Massachusetts. And I got to work with him. He was my first owner, first boss, and it was a great thrill to work for somebody that you had looked up to for so long, and he gave me some valuable experience.
And how much, Steve? How much would you say that your work has changed over the last 36 years? Has it changed significantly, or do you still keep the same kind of routine?
Well, I keep the same routine that I've always have. In fact, when I got the job at the radio station back in Massachusetts, I got a pass to the Celtics games, and that's when I worked up the courage to go introduce myself to Johnny Most, and then eventually he would let me keep score for him. So I use that same scorecard right now that I did back then. And,
Wow.
I kind of had modified it a little bit, maybe add a few things here and there that he didn't need to see, but I basically keep my scorebook by hand, my scorecard. We do have the computer, of course. We have the stats monitor, but it keeps me. I feel like it keeps me more in the game to write everything down when somebody scores, and just keep the book that way. I can keep track of the runs that we're on. I can just know immediately what the biggest lead was in the game, or how many points we've come back from, or how big our lead was and the lead is gone. That kind of thing. So and the other thing that's changed is certainly the number of people that can hear you. I mean, it used to be back in the old days, you were on your flagship station and maybe a few stations, say around the state or on the network. But now, here we are, Sirius XM. We're on NBA.com. So there are many more platforms for people to hear us, and all around the world they can hear us between Sirius XM and the internet on NBA.com. So it has certainly opened up the audience, that's for sure. And people that are from Atlanta, like guys that are in the service or whatever, they're stationed all over the world. We hear from them occasionally saying, they're able to listen to us, and kind of brings a little bit of home for them.
Right. That's fantastic. I'd even add too, with the rise of social media and podcasting, I'm sure that's brought another element in as well.
Oh yeah, podcasts are big now. I end up probably doing one or two every couple of weeks on various podcasts. So that really has expanded, and they've become big. And the social media thing, I do Twitter, I do Facebook, I do Instagram, and mostly though I do things about what time the game is, where to listen to it, and family pictures, and pictures of my puppy dog. Nothing controversial.
Is there a player or a coach, that you've covered that has been, who would you say has stood out? Obviously, for my generation, for the Hawks specifically, Trae Young is somebody that comes to mind. But who would you say over the course of your time is somebody that has been really fun or different to cover?
Well, of course, I was broadcasting the games when Dominique was right in his wheelhouse. He was in his prime during that time, and he does our television now. So we travel together all the time. He sits right across from me on the team charter. So we've had that relationship now for 37, 38 years. We've been friends, and we continue that. So he's always one of my favorites. And Doc Rivers was on that team. He's been a favorite too. And various coaches that have come through. Mike Fratello was my first coach when I started in 85, 86, right after Hubie Brown. And he remains friends now. He does a lot of TV games. He does some in Cleveland of their pregame show. He also does some Clipper games. So I see him quite often. Lenny Wilkins was one of my favorite coaches of all time. He was with us for 7 years. Mike Woodson was a lot of fun to be around. And right now, Nate McMillan is a guy that I called his games when he would play against the Hawks. In fact, he was the point guard for the Seattle Supersonics the night that Dominique played his last game in a Hawks uniform before they traded him for Danny Manning. So there's a little bit of a connection there too. So, over the years, I've done some father-son duos too over the years, calling the father's games and then later on calling the son's games. And so that's been kind of special.
That's pretty special, yeah.
But Trae and John Collins, this group that we have right now, they are really exciting. It's one of the better teams that we've had over my 37 years. And, I think it's been a weird couple of seasons with the COVID and the positive tests and things like that, where we had a West Coast trip. We ended up with 12 guys out at one time with positive tests. And, we had a lot of G League guys that nobody had ever heard of playing for us during that stretch. So if we could somehow, over the last 24 games that we have to play as we're recording this, I think once they get in, they have a chance to do some damage. But it has been a weird season. It's been a weird season, 2 games under as we record this. And, they've got to get it going now in those final 24 games.
Sure. I mean, still a young team, but a very capable and talented team. I'd be excited to see how they finish the year. My last question for you.
Same team basically that made it to the Eastern Finals last year.
Right,
so you would think that if healthy and have things going in the right direction, they can do some damage again in the playoffs.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The last thing I want to ask you today, Steve, is what advice do you have for younger sportscasters, somebody like myself, somebody, looking to get into the industry here?
Well, my advice is always to try to do everything you can do. Don't try to get anything specialized. If you want to do play by play, that's great, but maybe get a job at a radio station and do everything. Maybe read the news and do everything you can do. Learn all the different jobs that are at radio stations. And I always suggest trying to go to a small station in a small town so you can get yourself to the point where you could put together an audition tape that is going to be the best you can do. So because program directors and people like that are going to listen to, maybe a minute and a half of a tape. So you want to make sure it's the best one that you can present and that you've got the experience that you want to present it for a big time job before. The worst thing is to rush it and not be good. And then, they remember that just as much as they remember the good stuff. So that's what I would say. Get as much experience as you can and do as many things as you can within a radio or TV station and learn it all right from the ground up.
I think that's great advice, especially coming from a guy that's been in this industry as long as you have. Steve, thank you so much
50 years this year.
Yeah, wow. Congratulations.
I started when I was 17, so this is 50 years.
Wow. Congratulations.
All right, well, thanks. We look forward to seeing you guys in June.
Look forward to seeing you as well.
It's always a fun weekend, that's for sure.
Georgia Sportscaster of the Year, Steve Holman. Thanks again for your time, Steve.
My pleasure, Jake. Thank you.